Vishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavams Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvatamsha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prasharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauradvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Hare Krishna. So we hope everyone is able to hear and everyone is able to see the screen.
Yes, bro.
Okay, good. So welcome everyone to the Unit 18 of the Bhakti Vaibhav course. And fortunately or unfortunately, we're meeting very soon. Yeah, we just finished the Dhruv Maharaj section in March. So, but somehow because of unavailability of any of the teachers, so I had to jump in at the last minute to somehow do a service. So please tolerate and bear with us for this unit. We'll try to discuss and definitely one of the main reasons why I agreed to teach is because I get the benefit of everyone else's association. So that's the main reason why I agreed to sort of facilitate the teaching of this unit. And so definitely I'm looking forward to your association and through various discussions. And so let's begin with chapter 20, Lord Vishnu's appearance in the sacrificial arena of Maharaj Prithu. So the chapter overview is there are 4 sections of this chapter. 1 to 16, Lord instructs Prithu Maharaj. 17 to 22, Lord's affectionate dealings with Prithu Maharaj. 23 to 31, praise of Prithu Maharaj. And 32 to 38, Lord leaves after offering benedictions to Prithu. So the chapter is not very long, but at the same time, they're very, very important teachings and many wonderful things that we can learn from this chapter. So let's begin with the first verse. So let's recite. Maitreya uvacha bhagavan api vaikunta sakham magavata vibhu yagnyer yajnapati tushto yajnabhuktam abhashata. Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, being very much satisfied with the performance of 99 horse sacrifices, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Lord Vishnu appeared on the scene. Accompanying him was King Indra. Lord Vishnu then began to speak. Okay. So as we know the pastime from the previous chapter, and of course we have all heard this pastime many, many times, how Indra was trying to stop Prithu Maharaj from performing the 100th hour sacrifice because of his envy towards Prithu Maharaj. And finally, the priest became so angry, and then finally Prithu Maharaj also, he actually tried to capture Indra and kill him, and then the priest said, no, we will do the job. And then they chanted mantras by which Indra would be dragged into the sacrificial fire. So just see the whole drama that took place because of one person's envy, because of Indra's envy towards Prithu Maharaj. And then, of course, all the upper sampradayas and false sannyasis and so many other things. So a huge drama that took place because of one person's envy. And that's how envy is so disastrous in this world. Though, of course, envy is the root cause of a material existence, and envy is what will keep us in material existence. And so, therefore, we always have to remember that how harboring envy within the heart brings great disaster, not only to oneself, but also to others, causes a lot of inconvenience to others and so much of trouble. And of course, the most damage is caused to oneself, as the example is often given that when one is envious of somebody else, it is like holding a burning hot coal in one's hand, and one is trying to throw it at the other person towards whom one is envious of, but as long as one is holding the burning coal, one is burning oneself. So that's how envy definitely causes so much of harm and disaster to oneself, major obstacle in one's progress in devotional life, and then so much inconvenience and so much trouble to others. And of course, ultimately, it does not please the Vaishnavas, it does not please Guru and Krishna. And of course, we may have definitely discussed the subject matter of envy many, many times. But just to sort of recapitulate, somebody could briefly tell us some of the ways we can conquer envy.
Glorifying the devotees.
Okay, glorifying the devotees. How does that help?
Because envy is basically we always want to find faults. So as Radhanath Maharaj says that criticism or envy is like poison. When we glorify, it is like drinking nectar from the same mouth.
Right, that's what Mahaprabhu said. Yes, yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Amsha Prabhu. Yes, somebody else.
Hare Krishna.
Also, we like whenever a devotee performs something very extraordinary or something, we can see it as a vibhuti of Krishna. We see it is coming through that personality. Then automatically we feel gratitude towards the Lord and other Vaishnavas also.
Yes, very good point. Excellent point, Ram Sai Prabhu. So yes, that's correct. So we see the hand of the Lord in everything that happens. So somebody has some vibhuti, somebody has something more, somebody has something less. If you see everything as the arrangement of the Lord, then yes, then we can be peaceful. There's no scope for envy. Yes. Some other points, please.
Envy just because of I didn't get what I want, but somebody else is getting. So yes, if we can able to understand, others can engage those vibhutis in properly, because where I don't have that much capacity to engage, so Lord is providing to them, and Lord is providing to me also according to my capacity.
Correct.
If I can able to understand this, I will not be envious for this.
Yes, very good point. Yes, seeing that the Lord has a specific plan for everyone. Yes, very nice. Maybe one or two more points somebody would like to add.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, always seeing positive qualities in others and ignoring, that they are negatives, because even Krishna does not see the negative qualities. Krishna always sees positive qualities in devotees.
Okay, seeing the good qualities in others and glorifying them. Yes, that's correct.
Maharaj also says that when we envy someone, we are actually envying a part of Krishna only. So that's our root cause. We are continuing again here. So we are too cautious.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, envying anyone is showing our envy towards Krishna ultimately, because everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. Yes. And of course, here in this case, we see that how, in order to solve the whole thing, then Brahmaji had to appear on the scene. And Brahma told Prithu Maharaj give up this performance of this 100th hour sacrifice. And Prithu Maharaj had every reason to argue and justify and defend himself and say, no, Indra is the culprit. Go and tell Indra to stop his mischief. Why are you telling me? I'm just doing my duty. He could have said that. But then Prithu Maharaj, he just practically, without a single word, Prithu Maharaj just obeyed Brahma's instructions. And actually, towards the end of the 19th chapter, there's a very beautiful verse and purport where it is explained that sometimes in the life of a saintly person, there may be so many reversals, so many things which come, which are not expected, which are unplanned, things which are totally contrary to our plans. But then there it is mentioned, Srila Prabhupada explains there that if one simply accepts that this is the will of the Lord, and then one takes a humble position, then yes, then one can give up the envy, then one can be satisfied. So these are some very important points for us to learn from this pastime. And ultimately, because Prithu Maharaj, he did not act on the platform of the false ego, and he simply obeyed Lord Brahma's instructions. From one perspective, we can say that Indra won. He succeeded in not allowing Prithu Maharaj to perform the 100th hour sacrifice. But the real success was definitely for Prithu Maharaj, because here we see that Lord Vishnu appeared. And as is being said over here, that Prabhupada, right? Yes, tushta, the word comes, tushta. Yajñer, yajñapati is tushto. So because Prithu Maharaj agreed to Lord Brahma's instructions, the Lord was satisfied. Though from one perspective, one may say that he lost. He could not perform the 100th hour sacrifice. But then, by that cooperative mood, by agreeing to take the humble stand, as Srila Prabhupada also quotes the saying from the Bible, that only the humble and meek inherit the kingdom of God. So here, Prithu Maharaj took the humble stand. He didn't argue, he didn't defend, he didn't justify, nothing. He just obeyed Brahma's instructions, and he accepted Brahma's plan. Result is, the Supreme Lord is tushta, he is satisfied. So the important question is, what do we want? Do we want to, at any cost, maintain our false ego, show our big achievements to the world, and have the whole world praising us and glorifying us, and we want to somehow achieve those big things, even if it means pulling, pushing, and doing things by hook or by crook, and we may achieve the big thing, say, oh, you did a wonderful job, and all that may be there. But what is our ultimate goal? Are we after those material achievements, or are we after satisfaction of Guru and Krishna? What's our goal? And that decides our course of action. So if we are actually interested in satisfying the Supreme Lord, then we do things which will satisfy him. And if we want to our false egos and have the big achievements at any cost, Krishna will fulfill that also, as we see it happening many times with the case of Indra. So Krishna will fulfill those desires also. But then, as we will see later on in the praise of Prithu Maharaj, we may achieve all that, but we lose what is the ultimate, and that is achieving love for Krishna. Choice always is ours. Okay, so now the Lord begins to speak. The second verse, Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Mighty Indra, the King of Heaven, has disturbed your execution of 100 sacrifices. Now he has come with me to be forgiven by you. Therefore, excuse him. So the Lord is, in one sense, giving instruction to Prithu Maharaj. So Indra has come here, forgive him, excuse him. And then the next verse, very important verse, let's recite. Sudhiya sadhavo loke naradeva narottamaha na vidhruyanti bhutebhyo yarhi natma kalevaram. O king, one who is advanced in intelligence and eager to perform welfare activities for others is considered best amongst human beings. An advanced human being is never malicious to others. Those with advanced intelligence are always conscious that this material body is different from the soul. Okay, so here he's saying that those who are Sudhiya, who have advanced intelligence, and they are Sadhava, Loki, they want to do welfare activities. The sadhus are meant to do welfare activities for the world. So then, and one is Narottama, the best of human beings. Then how does he act? So if one is considering oneself to be very intelligent, so then how should an intelligent person act? The Lord is saying over here, na abhidruyanti. So an intelligent person never becomes envious, never becomes malicious. Because what is real intelligence? Because real intelligence is understanding the difference between Atma and Kalevaram. Yarhi na Atma Kalevaram. So he's always conscious, or he knows that the Atma is not the Kalevaram. The Atma is not the body, or he understands the difference between body and soul. And so one of the causes of envy is because we want some achievements which are mostly on the bodily platform. That is the cause of envy. And so therefore, one who's intelligent, and Srila Prabhupada in so many of his lectures, he says, there may be so many so-called intelligent people, big PhDs and doctors and engineers, and so many people may be there. But if he does not know about Atma and body, if he does not know about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we openly say that he is rascal. That's all. So therefore, real intelligence is understanding the difference between body and soul and the Supreme Personality of God. That's real intelligence, that's real knowledge as defined by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So here Lord Vishnu is saying that yes, if you consider yourself intelligent, he's telling Brahma, then you give up your envy, because envy is simply on the bodily platform. If you know the difference between body and soul, then you cannot be envious. Okay, somebody can read this purport, please. Somebody like to read? Whoever has the mic, just read. Don't keep passing around the mic.
Online can read, Prabhuji.
Okay,
in daily life, we find that when a madman commits murder, he is excused even by a high court judge. The idea is that a living entity is always pure because he is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he falls into the clutches of material energy, he becomes a victim of the three modes of material nature. Indeed, whatever he does under the influence of material nature, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 5.14, न कर्तृत्वं न कर्मणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्म फल संयोगम स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते. The embodied spirit, the master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he include people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Actually, the living
Go ahead.
Actually, the living entity or soul does not do anything. Everything is done under the influence of the modes of material nature. When the man is diseased, the symptoms of the disease become a source of all kinds of pain. Those who are advanced in transcendental consciousness or Krishna consciousness are never envious, neither of the soul nor of the activities of the soul under the influence of material nature. Advanced transcendentalists are called Sudhiyaha. Sudhi means intelligence, Sudhi means highly advanced, and Sudhi means devotee. One who is both devoted and highly advanced in intelligence does not take action against the soul or the body. If there is any discrepancy, he forgives. It is said that forgiveness is a quality of those who are advancing in spiritual knowledge.
Yeah, so here, Srila Prabhupada is explaining a very important philosophical theme, which Lord himself describes in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verses 13 to 16. This section of the Bhagavad Gita is technically called as etiology, the study of causation. So who is the cause of everything that happens? So if you refer to that section, in the 13th verse of the 5th chapter, the Lord says that the soul neither does anything nor causes anyone to do anything. So basically the soul is not the doer. So here the Lord is describing the relationship between the soul, Prakriti, and Ishvara. Atma, Prakriti, and the Ishvara. So in the 13th verse, he says that the soul does not do anything. Okay, fine. Then who does everything that's happening in this world? Who's doing everything? So then in this 14th verse, he says, yes, again he's repeating, na kartatvam, na karmani, lokasya srijati prabhu. The Prabhu, who's the Prabhu? The Prabhu is the Atma. So therefore, it's a bona fide to call everyone as Prabhu, because every Atma can be called as Prabhu. Why he's called as Prabhu? Because he's trying to be Prabhu. He's trying to be the master and enjoying this material world. So therefore, he's called as Prabhu. But he says, na kartritvam. He does not do anything. Na karma phala sanyogam. He's not responsible for the karma phala. Then who is responsible? Swabhavastu pravartate. Everything is being done by Swabhava, that is material nature, Prakriti. Everything is being done by Prakriti, as the Lord says in 327. Prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartahamiti manyate. So Prakriti is doing everything. Next question. Is Prakriti independent? No, Prakriti is not independent. Later on in the 9th chapter, Krishna says, Maya Tyakshena Prakriti Suitesu Characharam. So then who's controlling Prakriti? The Supreme Lord. So that means whatever is happening in the world, who is responsible? The Supreme Lord is responsible. So Supreme Lord is responsible. Anyone is committing any crime, any murder, who should go to the jail? Supreme Lord, isn't it? So logically speaking, that seems to be okay. But then Srila Prabhupada is giving a very beautiful purport to the 15th verse. And the Lord himself is saying in the 15th verse that I'm not responsible for all the papa and the punya. Nadate kashit papam. So he says, I'm not responsible for all this papa and punya of the living entities. Who is responsible then? The only thing that is responsible is the agyan, the ignorance of the conditioned soul. So because of the ignorance of the conditioned soul, he desires so many things. And based upon those desires, the Lord understands the desires, and then he orders Prakriti to fulfill those desires. So, but the point is that it's Prakriti who is orchestrating everything in this material world. And so therefore, here, Prabhupada is giving the example, and in his lectures, Prabhupada tells his own personal experience that in Calcutta once a person, he committed a murder. And so he was taken to the judge. So he pleaded to the judge that, sir, when I committed the murder, I was mentally insane. I was not in a proper state of mind. So please excuse me. So the judge called for the doctor, the civil surgeon, and then the doctor came. He inspected the person, and then he came to the conclusion that yes, he has some mental disorder, and so he committed the crime when he was not in proper frame of mind. So therefore, he can be excused. Prabhupada adds a statement there. But the doctor further said, in my opinion, in this world, everyone is somewhat mad. So Srila Prabhupada says, it's not only we who say it, even an authoritative person like a doctor, he also agreed that everyone is somewhat mad in this world. Of course, the madness is the bodily conception of life. But why Srila Prabhupada is quoting this over here is because what the Lord is trying to tell Prithu Maharaj is that the soul by nature is always pure. But the soul, being contaminated by the material molds, commits so many nonsensical activities. So therefore, if you see from the spiritual platform, on the platform of the soul, then you don't have to blame the soul. So you see from the soul's perspective, the soul is always pure, and therefore you can forgive, taking into consideration that everyone is a pure spirit soul. Okay, so that is real intelligence, to distinguish between matter and spirit, soul and body. So when one sees that ultimately everyone is a pure spirit soul, but somehow he has come into this material world, is influenced by the modes, and but because of the influence of the modes, he is forced to commit so many right activities, wrong activities. So therefore, from the spiritual viewpoint, seeing from the point of view of the soul, then one can excuse. So Prabhupada concludes the discussion, concludes the purport by saying that if there is any discrepancy, he forgives. He does not take action against the soul of the body. If there's any discrepancy, he forgives. It is so that forgiveness is a quality of those who are advancing in spiritual knowledge. Okay, so we're all trying to advance in spiritual knowledge. And so for all of us who are trying to advance in spiritual knowledge, forgiveness is definitely a very important quality. And we would like to have a short discussion on this quality of forgiveness, which is definitely very important for devotees, for those who are trying to develop Brahmanical qualities, especially a very important quality. So, fine. So short group exercise. So you can get into groups of 3 or 4 devotees, and how many of our devotees are there? And kindly answer these few questions that you can see on the screen. Sorry. Everyone can see the questions on the screen? Okay, so those who are in the BBRV classroom, so you can get into groups, and those who are not in the classroom can answer the questions individually. And we'll give you 5 minutes for this, and after that we will try to have a discussion on this important quality of forgiveness. Are the questions clear? Maybe somebody can just read the questions. Somebody just read out the questions in the classroom.
Hare Krishna. What does it mean to forgive someone? What are the benefits of forgiveness? What are the consequences of not forgiving? Discuss some challenges in forgiving someone and probable solutions. How did Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas apply this quality in preaching Krishna consciousness?
Okay, good. So questions are clear? Okay, fine. So just get into small groups and work on these questions for 5 minutes. Okay, try to conclude your discussions in a minute. Okay, fine. Can we begin? Yugal Shampru?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, bro.
The devotee is saying, can you forgive us and give us 2 more minutes?
Okay. So we'll give 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute. Forgive me.
उधर माता जी ने भी हाथ खड़े किए।
Okay, so let's begin. So whatever you have done, that's fine. So we'll just go ahead. Okay, I think so we can begin with Gaulila Prabhu. So maybe you can answer the first question. What does it mean to forgive? You have to unmute yourself, Prabhu.
I am not. Yes. Hari Bol. Are you hearing me?
Yes, yes.
So forgiving means accepting their services, and we should be able to serve them also.
Accepting their service and be able to serve them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then second question, what are the benefits?
No. One question. We'll go one question at a time. So we'll see somebody else has something to say on that first question.
Okay.
So we'll take Krishna Rup Mataji and then we will see from the classroom.
Roji, actually forgiveness is the identity of a Vaishnava. So
what does it mean? What does it mean to forgive someone on a practical level?
To forgive someone means having a very big heart and seeing on a very broader perspective. That ultimately even we are also tied up into these 3 modes of material nature only, and the other person is also tied up into the 3 modes of material nature. So seeing in actually a very broader vision, and also not even seeing. Sometimes we don't forgive because we have our own sense gratification also in that. We have our own ego also. But when we let go that ego and we forgive somebody, then that attracts mercy also.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Yes, in the classroom, someone?
Forgiveness means to not keep any grudge inside, to relieve him from the pain that he is feeling because of the mistake and wish well for him.
Okay, so to not maintain any grudges, Okay, fine, good point. So I will show some quotes from the scriptures after we discuss all the questions. Okay, so let's go to the second question. What are the benefits of forgiveness? Anyone from the classroom?
peacefulness, and mind is always free to think of Krishna.
Okay, it's peaceful and his mind is always free to think of Krishna. Why?
Because there is no grudges in heart, so no negativity in.
Okay, good point. Good point. Fine. Some other benefits? Some other benefits?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
So better cooperation in services. If we forgive, we need help and we also can give help. So we can serve better together.
Okay, very good point. Okay, fine. So we forgive, we're able to cooperate, we can serve better. Something more?
Our superiors will be happy by doing so.
Okay, our superiors will be happy because there is cooperation and okay, so better service. Okay, fine. Okay, let's hear something online. Yes, Vrindavan Priyamati.
Good relationship, good consciousness, and good physical as well as mental health.
Okay, so we can have good relationships. We can be peaceful. Mind affects the body. So yes, good mental health will also affect physical health. Okay, good points. Okay, maybe we can hear one or two more answers. Anyone? Anyone who has not spoken?
Prabhuji, when we will forgive, first and foremost thing is that we will be given forgiven when we do the mistakes.
Okay, okay. So if we forgive, we can also expect to be forgiven. Okay, fine. Good point. Yes, Narasimha Prabhu.
We can actually focus on the task or the seva.
Not audible, Prabhu.
Yeah, are you able to hear me now, Prabhuji?
A little better.
Okay, I was saying that if we can forgive, then we can focus on the task or the seva, or on the issue rather than on the person.
I cannot get you very clearly. Can you please repeat?
I was trying to say that we can, when we forgive, we can focus on the task or the seva rather than on the person.
Okay, okay, good. Okay, good. Yes. So we don't get into personal dealings and personal frictions and all that, but we are more focused on the service, that the service is being done ultimately to please Srila Prabhupada for the movement. So that's what is more important than personal frictions. Yes, good, good. Okay, I think so we can go to the next question. What are the consequences of not forgiving? Anyone online would like to say? Consequence of not forgiving?
Hare Krishna.
Our heart will be
wait, just a second. Shamlila provide something.
Yes, Prabhuji, not forgiving is like, keeping the burning coal in the hand. So we will actually burn ourselves if we do not forgive. So it is basically, self-destructive.
Okay, yes, it's self-destructive. Okay, good. Some other points?
It's Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can I answer?
Yes, please go ahead.
If we don't forgive, then we'll be always contemplating on that thing, that like the story of two brahmanas, one who carried the woman and the other one was walking.
Okay, good point. So we'll be always meditating on the other person's faults, and yes, all the negative thoughts will be going on. Okay, that's a good point.
Prabhuji, also in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Advaita Sarva Bhutanam Maitra Karune. So the definition of love is only the capacity to forgive endlessly. And the devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, they are never inclined to actually avenge themselves. So forgiveness is the quality of one who is actually progressing in devotional service.
Okay, fine. So of course, what are the consequences of not forgiving? From the classroom.
Prabhuji, hard-heartedness will be there.
And hard-heartedness, why?
Yeah, because there won't be relationship only continuing, and then the person, actually both the party will become very close to each other, and then relationship is not. So it's so the atmosphere of love and trust is actually spoiled, and hard-heartedness will grow.
Okay, correct. Very good. Good point. Kirti Krishna Prabhu.
If you are not giving if you are not forgiving, the consequences are, as we know that about other person, the all negative thoughts will become more and more in our mind. Not only ourselves, we will think more negatively about that person. Why he did, why he is not doing like this.
Correct. Correct. Okay, in the classroom. Thank you. Somebody in the classroom. Anybody wants to say something in the classroom?
The person who is not forgiven may become closed or may not get the confidence that he will be able to progress ahead. That will be also one of the consequences of not forgiving the person. He will be feeling choked.
Okay, fine. So we're going to the Okay, fine. So we'll just go to the next question, and then maybe we'll hear from Vadraj after whenever the mic starts working. Okay, discuss some challenges in forgiving someone, probable solutions.
Ego problem.
Okay, so the challenge is okay. So what exactly happens? What do you mean by ego problem?
He cannot discuss with other person. He thinks great of himself only. He thinks that I'm only right.
Okay, so one is thinking I'm only right, so then he is not able to forgive somebody else. Okay, fine. What's the solution?
Solution is to become humble and go to that person and ask for beg forgiveness or forgive.
Okay, easy to say become humble, but how do you become humble?
We have to go practically.
Huh?
We have to do that.
Do what?
We have to go to that person and either beg forgiveness or.
But then the ego is not allowing. Then what to do?
Hare Krishna. One of the challenges could be that.
Hare Baba, nobody answered my question. Somebody who was talking about ego and humility. So the solution is not complete.
We have to bend ourselves and understand the consequence and bend ourselves.
Okay, that's a good point. So understanding the consequences of not forgiving, then yes, then one can bend oneself. Of course, physically bending is easy, but one has to bend the ego. So then yes, so understanding the consequences. Yes, that's a good point. Okay, fine. Yes, Prabhuji was talking about another challenge.
No, actually, I was pointing out the same point. So it's already covered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody has any other challenge to forgive?
Hare Krishna. Can
I? Okay, go ahead.
Prabhuji, really this I was undergoing it. Challenging in forgiving others is that why I have to bend first. So the best part of the solution which I found yesterday in our discussion with one of our congregation devotee, he was sharing when a person loves someone, as in like a beloved, and any other person loves him, that means like Krishna, any other person loves Krishna, and this person, the devotee, loves the other devotee. There is no meaning that I don't want to respect with him. So in that way, when I am also trying to please Krishna, when other devotee is also trying to please Krishna in his abilities, if I can able to see that, so anyway, he is pleasing Krishna and Krishna is pleased by his services. So obviously I have to there is no choice of forgive, rather I have to try to crack a good relationship with the devotee.
Okay, that's a good point. Seeing the commonality, seeing that ultimately everyone has a relationship with Krishna, everyone is trying to please Krishna. So yes, seeing that common goal which everyone has, then yes, then one tries to cooperate, one tries to forgive. Yes, very good point. Yes, very good point. Okay, let's hear from Gauli.
One more challenge we find in forgiving others is like we feel वो सेम ही रहने वाला है, बार बार ऑफेंड करता रहेगा, तो नो ही विल कीप ऑन ऑफेंडिंग सेम, so why to again get into same thing? You know, it's not going to transform immediately, so better to stay away and keep that silence.
Acha, okay, fine. So better to keep distance from that other devotee.
Yeah, keep silence.
Okay, so Cold War.
Not war, but silence.
that is only called Cold War. Okay, so what's the solution?
I don't know.
Are batao.
Yeah, he's suggesting like take help of some senior devotee, help improve each other.
Okay, fine. Yes, taking help of some other senior Vaishnavas, taking some guidance. Okay, good point. Okay, Gauli approve.
Same point I was trying to say is that if he's committing the mistake again and again, then it's difficult to forgive. And the solution is also similar, that I should keep the distance so that his mistakes are not troubling me. And that's how after that I will forgive him.
Okay, so if the other devotee is committing mistakes again and again, so then I should keep distance. But then if he's committing mistakes again and again, then is he not sort of going away from the right path? So is it not my duty to help him?
Yeah, but if I am not able to help him, then what to do? Then better I should keep the distance.
But maybe at least I can tell some other senior devotees or some other devotees who can help him, isn't it?
Yeah, that could be the part of the solution.
Correct. Okay, fine. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, and maybe we'll hear one more from Vrindavan Priyamati.
Yes, Prabhu. The challenge is hatredness towards the person, which arises due to the emotional storm or disturbed consciousness. Due to that, one cannot forgive. And the solution for it, like improve consciousness and emotional balance by sharing our heart with the senior and chanting holy name and reciting prayers to the Lord.
Okay, good points. Okay, sharing a heart with seniors and praying to the Lord so that we can try to develop that forgiveness. Yes, so good points. Okay, we go to the last question. How did Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas apply this quality in preaching Krishna consciousness? So anyone would like to share some pastimes? Okay, yes, Narasimha.
I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, very clear.
Okay. So Srila Prabhupada's one sannyasi disciple in South America, I don't remember the place exactly. So he had taken sannyas from Srila Prabhupada, and next time, again after a few years, Prabhupada visited that place. That time he has actually given up sannyas and he was married and having a child also. And he has come to meet Srila Prabhupada. And he was quite apprehensive, and he asked in the room to Srila Prabhupada that, would you actually punish me like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu punished Chota Haridas, like that? And then Srila Prabhupada said, no, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not need any help from anyone to spread Krishna consciousness. But actually, I'm not like the Lord. I need all your help to preach Krishna consciousness all over. And you have actually done so much of service to me. So how can I forget that? So actually, Srila Prabhupada showed here this attitude of gratitude, whatever help he has received. And he had
okay, good pastime. I think so. Maybe you're sort of combining the pastime of Vishnujan Maharaj.
No, somebody else. I think Hanuman Swami.
Okay, fine. Okay, good. Maybe one, two more. Somebody in the classroom.
Srila Prabhupada forgiving Mrs. N. After the whole
tell a few more details.
After that whole scene of the fight, everything, toward the end, when Mrs. N came to Prabhupada to settle that issue, Prabhupada forgave her.
Okay, I think so Prabhupada was telling you like my daughter or something. Okay, okay, that's passed on with Mrs. N. Did this Srila Prabhupada forgive Mr. N?
Surely Vaishnava forgives.
But then Srila Prabhupada said when Mr. N passed away, Srila Prabhupada said Lord Narasimhadev took him.
Don't know exactly.
Not mentioned.
Of course. And that's the point of discussion actually that we are having now. Okay, we'll come into a little bit more details. Okay, maybe one more. Somebody would like to share some. How did Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas apply?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, in Montreal, Gopal Krishna Maharaj took one of his Indian gentlemen when Prabhupada had arrived.
Good pastor.
So, yeah, that time, after the class or during the class only, he was criticizing very much Prabhupada. So later on, when Maharaj was felt very much guilty that why did I brought this gentleman? He was asking repeatedly forgiveness to Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, no, in the last life, I must have done something to him. So like that, Prabhupada said and forgave him.
Okay, okay, good points. Okay, fine. So, so we're supposed to have a break, isn't it, Dual Champro? Break is required?
Yes, Prabhuji, Gayatri Bek.
A Gayatri break, okay. Gayatri can be done in 1 hour. So in any case, okay, fine. So before, we'll give a 5 minutes break. Don't worry. Don't worry. Otherwise, maybe you won't forgive me for that. So, but we'll just finish this discussion with a few Shastric quotes on this forgiveness. Right. Okay. So in the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada gives a definition of forgiveness. So Nectar of Devotion, chapter 21, this is qualities of Lord Shri Krishna. A person who can tolerate all kinds of offenses from the opposite party is known to be forgiving. Okay. So somebody, the opposite party has been offensive, but one is ready to tolerate them. Okay, so that is basically what is meant by forgiveness. So he's actually able to tolerate. Also, important point to note is he's actually able to tolerate. See the precise word that Prabhupada is using. He can tolerate. So it's not a question of physically saying sorry or okay, and I forgive. Well, one could do that superficially, but actually one is able to tolerate. That means one is actually not feeling inconvenienced by what the other person has done. And one is actually acting on the platform of knowledge, as Lord Vishnu is speaking about over here. So if one is so who can tolerate? Who can tolerate? So Krishna is telling in the Bhagavad Gita with the famous verse, Matras Prashastu Kaunteya, Shito Ushna, Sukha Dukkada, Agama, Apaino, Anityas. So one who understands that, okay, as that good pastime Vamsivadan Prabhu has just shared, as Srila Prabhupada showed by his own example, okay, in the past life I may have done something. So one is able to tolerate on the platform of knowledge, understanding that maybe I've done something in the past, or one tolerates because one understands that, okay, all these things are temporary, or one understands that, yes, all these dualities are simply on the bodily platform and so don't affect the soul. So on that platform, then one is able to tolerate. That means he does not maintain grudges. One clearly understands that this person is only an instrument of my own karma. And on that basis, he is able to tolerate. He understands that actually it is Krishna who's acting through this person. And so therefore, that is the actual meaning of forgiveness. So not just a superficial sorry or something like that, but one is actually able to tolerate and not take the inconvenience so seriously. And Srila Prabhupada is giving these 2 examples here. Lord Krishna's forgiving quality is described in the Shishupal Vad in connection with his forbidding the killing of Shishupal. And Sri Yamunacharya praises the Lord's power of forgiveness with the following statement: "My dear Lord Ramchandra, you're so merciful to have excused the crow's clawing on the nipples of Janki simply because of his bowing down before you." Okay, so the crow was Indra, you know the pastime. So he begged forgiveness and then the Lord forgave, even though that instant was definitely very intolerable to Lord Ramchandra. And then there are two verses from the 9th canto. "My dear son, we are all Brahmanas and have become worshipable for the people in general because of our quality of forgiveness. It is because of this quality that Lord Brahma, the supreme spiritual master of this universe, has achieved his post." Can somebody say who is speaking this without opening your laptops, mobiles?
Lord Parshuram's father to Parshuram.
Yes, that's right. Good. So yes, Jamadagni is telling to Parshuram after Parshuram killed all the king, killed Kartavirarjuna and all the kings and all those people. So this is what Jamadagni is telling Parshuram. Oh, you didn't, you should not have done it. You have killed the representative of the Lord, the king. We are Brahmanas. And so we become worshipable because of our quality of forgiveness. Okay. So, and then in the next verse, he says, the duty of a Brahmana is to culture the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is pleased with those who are forgiving. And that we can see over here. So Lord Vishnu is pleased with Prithu Maharaj because he forgave and then he stopped the sacrifice and all that. And so that's the duty of a Brahmana especially of a Brahmana to forgive. So then what about a Kshatriya? So does a Kshatriya forgive or no?
Yes, they can also forgive. We have the famous example in first canto of Draupadi forgiving Ashwatthama when he's being bound and about to be punished. And Prabhupada writes that it's because of her Vaishnava qualities. She's actually
okay. So she's a Vaishnavi, but Kshatriya men in general. Yes, any thoughts on that? Are only Brahmanas meant to forgive?
We have the example of Yudhishthira Maharaj, who was very forgiving.
Example?
He wanted to forgive Ashwatthama.
Okay. Okay, he wanted to forgive, but then we have Bhima. He didn't want to forgive.
Ambarish Maharaj forgiving Durvasa Muni.
Okay. Okay, fine. So, okay, so Kshatriyas can also forgive. So, but at the same time, we find Parikshit Maharaj taking out his sword, saying Kali. So, was he forgiving or no? We have pastime of Lord Ramchandra. There was one Shudra who was performing tapasya. He cut off his head. And so here in the previous section you have studied of Prithu Maharaj, so angry on Mother Earth. So so then how do you say, is this forgiveness or no? Yes, Satyaprabhu.
Actually, Kshatriya uses his prowess to protect dharma. And whatever is possible in that sense, he does, he manifests his quality of forgiveness.
Okay, good point. Good point.
With the Parikshit Maharaj, actually Kali was trying to kill the bull. So seeing that he was to be killed immediately. But Parikshit Maharaj did not kill him immediately. He told him that you go out, and he gave him shelter in the 4 places. This way, he actually forgave him, gave him less punishment, which In
Okay.
other case, would have been very severe.
Mm.
So therefore, they would definitely like to do their dharma, but at the cost of minimum violence and taking everybody into consideration, because they are like a father of all the praja. So only in the case of very extreme things, then they have to take action. Seeing the situation.
Right. So actually we see that, then how do you explain this Prithu Maharaj chastising Mother Earth?
Prithu Maharaj chastised the Mother Earth for not giving the grains, because of which whole praja was suffering. But he did not kill the earth.
Okay. Of course, if he would have killed the earth, that would have been disaster for everyone. No?
So therefore, he did not. He got angry on her and scolded her. But afterwards, when the mother agreed to give the things, then he forgave. Or she agreed before only to give.
This means, okay, so whatever the other person does, can we forgive? So somebody is doing some crime, somebody is doing some nonsense. So we find in the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, we have the temple opening, Amsterdam temple opening. Prabhupada was so wild, he was chastising all the devotees. Srila Prabhupada got angry on so many different occasions. Vrindavan temple didn't open on time. Prabhupada was like, took the form of Narsimhadev. So how do you explain that? So Prabhupada was not forgiving?
Krishna Prabhuji, can I add?
Okay, go ahead, Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Here Prabhupada is getting angry or not forgiving is not the, I mean, it cannot go in a relation. Here Prabhupada is getting angry to correct them, to show them. Forgiveness is not like to each and everyone we can forgive. If a murderer is forgive, then he can cause a havoc to the society.
Correct.
Forgiveness should be based on how they are useful for the society or doing the good thing. I'm not able to put it in a right position.
Yes, yes, your point is correct. Yes, so therefore, when we talk of forgiveness, definitely it is mostly on a personal account. So when somebody, as the definition which Prabhupada gives here is, you can tolerate all kinds of offenses from the opposite party, but that is mostly towards oneself. Then one is ready to forgive, because oneself, if one is humble, one does not consider oneself so important, then one is ready to forgive. But then especially if it is offense against other devotees, against the Lord, against the Lord's institution, then of course the Shastra says, then there is no question of forgiveness. Then actually Prabhupada says in a lecture, then you cannot practice Trinadapi Sunichena, then you have to become angry. So yes, but then when it is offenses against oneself, then yes, then one can tolerate, one can forgive. But when it is against other devotees and the Lord, then there's no question of forgiving. But of course, in that case, also one may modify one's chastisement according to the situation. But then mostly the quality of forgiveness is applicable when offenses are done against oneself.
Prabhuji, just a query. Prabhuji, we can understand the same way like Parikshit Maharaj, when actually Shringi cursed him, he actually did not retaliate, but when Kali was there, then he actually retaliated.
Correct. Yes, correct. Okay, good. Okay, fine. Thank you for this good discussion. So we'll take a 5 minutes break and then continue. All right. Okay, fine. Another important point which we see over here in reference to the pastime is where Lord Vishnu is telling Prithu Maharaj to see on the platform of the soul is the important principle which Srila Prabhupada speaks about in other purports also. And that is, hate the sin, not the sinner. So if one is seeing on the platform of the soul that here is a spirit soul who is originally pure, but then because of the influence of the modes, he has committed something wrong. So then one may not like the sinful activity, the wrong activity which the person has done, but one continues to love the spirit soul. That is what the Lord is trying to tell Prithu Maharaj. See on the platform of the soul, and on that platform, you continue to love Indra and you forgive him. Okay, so that's the important point. Okay, so we are proceeding ahead. That was the 3rd verse. And so going ahead with the 4th verse. Purusha yadi moyanti twadrisha deva maya Shrama eva param jato dirgaya vriddha sevaya. If a personality like you who are so much advanced because of executing the instructions of the previous acharyas is carried away by the influence of material energy, then all your advancement may be considered simply a waste of time. Okay, so the Lord is telling him that you have become advanced. How you have become advanced? Dirgaya vriddha sevaya. So this is the way one actually becomes advanced and one can rise above the bodily concept of life by vriddha sevaya, by serving the superiors. So by serving the acharyas, by serving the superiors, that's by pleasing them, that's how one rises above the bodily concept of life. This Srila Prabhupada explains in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verse number 29. Yes, verse number 29 purport, which is the Asharivat verse. So how the whole concept of the soul is very, very bewildering for the people to understand. So towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, but the three ways in which one can actually come to the understanding of the soul. The first thing is, he says, is understanding the instructions of Lord Krishna as given in the Bhagavad Gita as it is. The second thing he says is by performing tapasya in this life, on previous lives, so performing tapasya. And the third thing he says, which is most important, is the causeless mercy of the pure devotees. So that is how, by vriddha sevaya, by serving the superiors, by serving the acharyas and attracting their mercy, then it's by their mercy that one actually realizes, comes to the platform of self-realization and realizes that I'm not the body, I'm the soul. So therefore, that's how he's saying that you're so advanced, you become advanced by vriddha sevaya. But then if you are going to be influenced by Twadrisha Deva Maya, and by the influence of Maya Muyanti, you're put into illusion, then everything is Shrama Eva. Everything will be simply Shrama. So Prabhupada writes an important point in the purport: no one can be perfect in knowledge without being trained by the Parampara system. Prithu Maharaj was completely trained in that line. Therefore, he did not deserve to be considered an ordinary man. So one thing is, yes, to be on that platform, but then other thing is also to act on that platform. So Lord Vishnu is telling, okay, you have served the superiors, you have become advanced, but now you should also act on the advanced platform. So if you don't act on the advanced platform, then what is the use? So then one is able to act on the advanced platform to the degree one has realization. So that's the important point. Okay. What I put on the screen is basically, yes, some themes of some of these verses. Okay. So actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes in the commentary to the 4th and the 5th verse, realization arises from removing Maya by service to elders. So by service to the elders, when they are pleased by their mercy, then one is actually able to transcend the material energy, and then one is actually able to get realized knowledge. Text 5. Athakayam imam vidvan avidya kama karma bhi arabdha iti naivasmin pratibuddho anushajjate. Those who are in full knowledge of the bodily conception of life, who know that this body is composed of nations, desires, and activities resulting from illusion, do not become addicted to the body. And so here he's talking about what is the result if one is in knowledge. So if one is in knowledge, then he's not affected by the body, which is composed of avidya kama karmabhi, which is composed of nations, so many material desires, karmabhi. So then one is not affected by all that. One does not become anushajjate. One does not become affected. One does not become addicted by the body. So Prabhupada is writing, in the bodily conception, when we think that sense gratification will help us, we are in illusion. Another kind of illusion is to think that one will become happy by trying to satisfy the desires. So this is all the result of bodily conception. If one comes to knowledge, then one will be free of the bodily conception. And then in the next verse he's saying, so those who are in bodily conception, then what happens to them? Then they also become affected by those who are connected to the body. How can a highly learned person who has absolutely no affinity for the bodily conception of life be affected by the bodily conception in regard to house, children, wealth, and similar other bodily productions. So all those are in connection to the body. So if one is in bodily conception, then one will obviously be affected by all these things. So now in the 7th verse, he talks about the Paramatma. So one understands, one who's in knowledge, then he understands that I'm the spirit soul, and then there's also the Paramatma, and the Jivatma has a relationship with the Paramatma. So the 7th verse is basically describing 9 qualities that distinguish the Paramatma from the Jiva in this body. So 7th verse, Eka Shuddha Swayam Jyoti Nirguno Saugunashrayah Sarvago Navrita Sakshi Nirat Matmanaha Paraha. The individual soul is one, pure, non-material, and self-effulgent. He is the reservoir of all good qualities and is all-pervading. He is without material covering and is the witness of all activities. He is completely distinguished from other living entities and is transcendent to all embodied souls. So here, as Srila Prabhupada also in the purport is quoting Vishwacharya Thakur, according to Sri Vishwacharya Thakur in this verse, Lord Vishnu is describing himself or the Paramatma. Okay, so all these are the qualities of the Paramatma: Shuddha, pure; Swayam Jyoti, he is self-effulgent; Nirguna, without material qualifications; Gunashraya, the reservoir of good qualities; Sarvaga, this comes in the Bhagavad Gita also, Sarvaga, able to go everywhere; Anavritaha, without being covered by matter; he is Sakshi, witness. So all these are the qualities of the Paramatma. And so therefore, then once one realizes the self, then one is also able to realize the Paramatma. And so therefore, all these are the qualities of the Paramatma. 9 qualities are being described over here, which distinguish the Paramatma from the Jivatma. So all this is the realization of one who is in knowledge. And you can see Prabhupada in the purport is also distinguishing the Jivatma from the Paramatma. Just to cite a few examples. The living entities who are many and who are entangled in this material world are not pure. Now the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pure and detached. Due to being covered by the material body, the living entities are not self-effulgent, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, is self-effulgent. The living entities being contaminated with the modes of material nature are called Saguna, whereas Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of God, is Nirguna, not being under the influence of material modes. The living entities being engaged in the material qualities are Gunashrita, whereas Supreme Personality of God is Gunashraya. So in this way, the Prabhupada is distinguishing the Jivatma from the Paramatma. And so one who realizes both Atma and Paramatma, then what is the result of that? He's explaining in the next verse. Ye evam santam atmanam atmastam veda purushaha najate prakritistopi tadgune samai stitaha. Although within the material nature, one who is thus situated in full knowledge of the Paramatma and the Atma is never affected by the modes of material nature, for is always situated in my transcendental loving service. So one who has this full knowledge of the Paramatma and Atma, then najate prakriti sto api tad gune sa mai stitaha. So he's never affected by, even though he is situated within the material nature, within the material world, but he is not affected by the modes. So Prabhupada is quoting from the Bhagavad Gita, Mam Chayobacharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sa Gunan Samatityetan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. So you can definitely read from the Bhagavad Gita chapter 14, the last section of the chapter, where Arjuna is asking Krishna, what are the symptoms and the behavior of one who's transcendental with the modes, and how does one become transcendental with the modes? So that's a very important and interesting section. And Srila Prabhupada is giving very beautiful purports there. And so definitely you can go through it. Srila Prabhupada explains there some significant points. That is, Srila Prabhupada says that as long as one is in the material world, there is always a possibility of being affected by the modes. So in order to become totally free from the influence of the modes, one has to, it's only possible when one leaves the material world. Because material world means modes. The acharyas sometimes give the example that just like it's like being put in a salt mine. If one is put in a salt mine, there's going to be salt everywhere. if one is put in the ocean, there's going to be water everywhere. So similarly, when one is in the material world, there are modes everywhere. And so therefore, as long as one is in the material world, there is always a possibility of being affected by the modes, even though one may be very advanced. And we have examples for that in the Bhagavatam. Which examples?
Can we talk about Brahmaji being affected? Behind
Brahma?
Brahmaji
Yes,
running behind the daughter.
Yes, we have the example of Brahma running after his daughter. Some other examples? Of course, we have examples of Bharat Maharaj, although so elevated, then but still he came under the influence of the modes. We also have Dhruva Maharaj, again so elevated, but again he became influenced by Rajagun, became excessively angry, Rajagun Tamagun. So that's how, as long as one is in the material world, there is possibility of being influenced in modes, and that's the reason why one always has to be alert and extremely careful. At no point of time one can think one is safe as long as one is in the material world, because again, the Lord explains in the 14th chapter, 10th verse purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, the verse itself speaks about it. And that's how there's always competition between the modes. And so if one is not alert to always remain on the Sattvagun platform, then the Rajagun and Tamagun are just waiting to take over. And therefore one always has to be extremely alert. Okay. So 9th verse. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, continued, My dear King Prithu, when one situated in his occupation duty engages in my loving service without motive for material gain, he gradually becomes very satisfied within. Now, the Lord is explaining the process by which one can actually realize the Paramatma. Vishwanath Thakur, he says that the Lord is describing the process of Bhakti Mishra Gyan. Okay, so that means basically it is the process of Gyan mixed in with a little Bhakti. So this is, of course, the process of Gyan basically means Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga. So both are very much related. And so basically what the Lord is describing is performing something like Karma Yoga, okay, which eventually leads to Gyan. So this is what the Lord is describing, performing one's occupational duty without motive for material gain. So this is something like Nishkam Karma Yoga. Okay, so when one performs that, then he gradually becomes very satisfied. Mano Rajan Prasidati. And of course, this is an important aspect which the Lord speaks about almost throughout the Bhagavad Gita. That is performing one's occupational duty without desire for the fruits. This is an important theme which the Lord speaks almost throughout the Bhagavad Gita, almost from the beginning till the end, beginning from 2.57, Karmanyevadhikaraste, beginning from there to again in the 3rd chapter, 30th verse, Mayi Sarvani Karmani Sanyasyadi Atmachetasa Nirashi Nirmamo Bhutva Yudhyasva Vigata Jvara. So beginning from right from the beginning of the Gita, and then you can go right up till the 18th chapter, where again Krishna speaks about renunciation of the 3 modes. So throughout the Gita, we find that the Lord is emphasizing on performing one's prescribed duties without being attached to the results. Okay, so that's something that Nishkam activity, Nishkam performance of one's prescribed duties is very, very important. Even for us as devotees, because that's how we actually get more and more knowledge and realization, and we actually can become satisfied, because to the degree one is attached to the results, that's the influence of Rajagun. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Rajasastu phalam dukkham. As soon as there is influence of Rajagun, the result is going to be misery. And so if we want to be free from misery, we want to be satisfied, the Lord is saying over here, one has to act on the Nishkam platform. So performance of prescribed duties without being attached to the fruits. And so I made a point over here. So the types of devotional service influenced by the modes, which Lord Kapila is speaking about in the 3rd canto. So you know that section. So now, as one practices this type of Nishkam Karma Yoga, the result is explained in the next verse. Parityakta guna samyak darshano vishadashayah shantim me samavasthanam brahma kevalyam ashnute. When the heart is cleansed of all material contamination, the devotee's mind becomes broader and transparent, and he can see things equally. At that stage of life, there is peace, and one is situated equally with me as Satchidananda Vigraha. So here, that's how when one practices this Nishkam Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, then the result will be Parityakta Gunaha. One becomes disassociated from the modes. That means one rises to the liberated platform. And so when one rises to the liberated platform, then one becomes, one has this Samyak Darshano. So one is able to see equally, because one is on the liberated platform. He can see everyone as spirit souls having a relationship with the Supreme. So that's how he can have that Samyak Darshano and Vishadashaya. So his mind or heart becomes free from contamination. And as a result, he's peaceful because he doesn't have any material motives, material desires, because he's free from all contamination. And then on that platform, Brahma Kevalyam Ashnute. So on that platform, he can achieve liberation into Brahman. So that is what he's speaking about, the result of practicing the Nishkam Karma Yoga resulting into Jnana Yoga. And so on that platform, then one has a proper, clear understanding of the difference between body and soul, as explained in the next verse. Udasinam ivadhyaksham dravya jnana kriyatmanam kutastam imam atmanam yo vedapnoti shobhanam. Anyone who knows that this material body, made up of the 5 gross elements, the sense organs, the working senses, and the mind, is simply supervised by the fixed soul, is eligible to be liberated from material bondage. So the person on the liberated platform is a clear understanding between the difference between the body and the soul. So he can very clearly understand that I am the spirit soul, but I'm different from this body. So this is again very nicely explained in the 5th chapter of the Gita, verses 8 and 9. So there, the symptoms of the jnani are being described. That means the karma yogi who has attained to the platform of jnana. So there is explained that as this jnani is eating, sleeping, evacuating, he's doing so many activities with the body, but he can clearly see that I am different from this body. So he has that perfect realization of the difference between body and soul. So that is on the liberated platform, when one clearly understands the difference. As Prabhupada writes in the purport, this verse describes how one can become liberated from material bondage. The first point is that one must know that the soul is different from its body. So this is what happens on the liberated platform. One can clearly see the difference. And so further down, Prabhupada says, one who has understood the fixed position of the soul should not be disturbed by the incoming and outgoing interactions of the modes of material nature in the form of happiness and distress. So obviously, when one is not on the material platform, on the bodily platform, then he's not so much affected by happiness and distress, because he knows that these dualities only affect the body. And so that realization can also be had by somebody who's practicing devotional service. Therefore, further down the purport, Prabhupada says, only one who constantly engages in devotional service 24 hours a day can be indifferent to the action and reaction of the external body. So by practicing devotional service, one can actually come to the liberated platform. And therefore, in the next verse, the Lord is saying, Binnasya lingasya guna pravaho dravya kriyakaraka chetanatmanaha drishtasu sampatsu vipatsu surayo na vikriyante mai bhatta savradaha. Lord Vishnu told King Prithu, my dear king, the constant change of this material world is due to the interaction of the 3 modes of material nature. The 5 elements, the senses, the demigods who control the senses, as well as the mind, which is agitated by the spirit soul, all these taken together comprise the body. Since the spirit soul is completely different from this combination of gross and subtle material elements, my devotee, who is connected with me in intense friendship and affection, being completely in knowledge, is never agitated by material happiness and distress. So here now the Lord is speaking about the devotee who also comes to that realization of the difference between the body and the soul. And then how can he come to that realization? The Lord is explaining it is possible by Baddha Saurudaha, Baddha Sauruda, because of intense friendship and affection with the Supreme Lord. That is the performance of pure devotional service. Then one can come to that realization. And then when he comes to that realization, then he's not agitated by material happiness and distress. Okay, this is a nice purport. Somebody can read this purport, please.
Well, the question may be raised that if the living entity has to act as the superintendent of the activities of the bodily combination, then how can he be indifferent to the activities of the body? The answer is given here. These activities are completely different from the activities of the spirit soul of the living entity. A crude example can be given in this connection. A businessman riding in a motor car sits in the car, supervises its business, supervises its running, and advises the driver. He knows how much gasoline is used up, and he knows everything about the car. But still he is apart from the car and is more concerned with his business. Even while riding in the car, he thinks of his business and his office. He has no connection with the car, although he is sitting there. As the businessman is always absorbed in the thoughts of his business, so the living entity can be absorbed in the thoughts of rendering loving service to the Lord. Then it will be possible to remain separate from the activities of the material body. This position of neutrality can be possible only for a devotee. The word Baddha Sahurada, bond in real friendship, is particularly used here. Karmis, Jnanis, and Yogis cannot be bound in devotional service. Karmis fully engage in the activities of the body. Their aim of life is to give comfort to the body only. Jnanis try to get out of entanglement by philosophical speculation, but they have no standing in the liberated position. Because they do not take shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord, they fall down from the exalted position of Brahman relation. Yogis also have a bodily concept of life. They think that they can achieve something spiritual by exercising the body through dharana, asana, pranayam, etc. A devotee's position is always transcendental because of his intimate relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, to remain always aloof from the actions and reactions of the body and engage in one's real occupation, namely rendering service to the Lord, can be possible only for devotees.
Yes. So here, Prabhupada is raising the question. So if the soul, he is the supreme of the activities of the body, he is supposed to be controlling the various activities of the body, then how is it possible for him to be aloof from the body? So Prabhupada is very nicely explained with this example of the businessman in the car. So he's taking care of the car, but he's actually thinking of the business. So similarly, the devotee is definitely taking care of the body, understanding the body is a medium to serve the Lord. So whatever is required for the body, so the gasoline, okay, so the gasoline is the prasadam. So everyone definitely has to take care of the body by feeding prasadam and whatever else is required. But one must not forget the real business, and the real business is to use the body for self-realization and God realization. That is the actual business. So even though we take care of the body, but then one must not get so engrossed in taking care of the body that one forgets the real business. And so this is actually possible only for the devotee, because only the devotee is focused on the devotional service to the Lord. Otherwise, all the others, Bhukti, Mukti, Siddhi, Kami, all of them are Kamis. And so they have some bodily attachment. But it's only the devotees who can be totally free from any type of bodily attachment. And so they take care of the body, but they're always focused on the actual goal. Okay, a commentary by Vishwanath Thakur on the verse. Somebody can read, please.
How can the jiva be free of birth and death? By just being indifferent to the body and senses while supervising them. Samsara arises from the subtle body, which is different from the jiva. The cause of difference is stated. The subtle body has a swarup of sense objects, sense organs, sense devatas, and intelligence. The meaning is this: by identity with the subtle body, the jiva undergoes samsara. If he is detached from the subtle body, he does not undergo samsara. Though he supervises the subtle body, this is not harmful for the jiva. Though he possesses the subtle body and interacts with it, he does not identify with it. It has been said that one can become free of samsara by striving for it by bhakti mishra gyan. But by pure bhakti, even without striving for freedom from samsara, one attains that result. Jarayati asu ya kosham nigrinam analo yatha. That bhakti quickly destroys the subtle body, just as a digestive fire consumes food. That is stated in the verse 3.25.33. The devotee is not disturbed by material happiness and distress because he has no attachment for the world. The reason for non-attachment is given. He is bound to me by friendship. This condition arises from pure bhakti. This is stated in the 3rd canto.
Okay, so here he is explaining that so even though he possesses subtle body, interacts with it, he does not identify with it. So this detachment from the gross and subtle body, as we know, the reason why one gets another gross body is because of the subtle body. So whatever thoughts are there in the subtle body, that creates the next gross body. Subtle creates gross. That's always the principle. And so therefore, the yogi, he has the gross body, subtle body, but he does not misidentify with them, and he's not attached to them. And so that state of detachment can be achieved either by the practice of karma yoga and jnana yoga, or and then one comes to the liberated platform, and from that liberated platform one can actually practice bhakti. But if one directly takes to the practice of bhakti, then automatically the subtle body is destroyed, or one becomes detached from the subtle body. That's what he's explaining. The bhakti quickly destroys the subtle body, just as digestive fire consumes food, because the subtle body is also used in the Lord's service, and that's how the subtle body becomes purified. The subtle body becomes totally purified. And so therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by material happiness and distress because he's not attached on the bodily platform. So he's detached from both the gross and subtle body, and so he's not so much affected. And what is the reason? The reason is the bhakti. And how the bhakti is aroused by bhakta saurudha, by developing friendship with the Lord, by practice of devotional service, by developing that relationship with the Lord, by developing the higher taste, then one can give up the attachment to the gross and the subtle body. Then one is not so much affected by the happiness and distress of this world. So basically, if you see, the sum and substance of Lord Vishnu's teachings is practice bhakti, rise above the bodily platform, come to the spiritual platform, then you will not be affected so much by the happiness and distress and the honor and dishonor and the various dualities that affect the material body. And now, in the next 3 verses, which are describing, or 4 verses, which are describing Lord Vishnu's instructions. So he is giving direct instructions to Prithu Maharaj on how to rule the kingdom. My dear heroic king, please keep yourself always equipoised and treat people equally, whether they're greater than you, in the intermediate stage, or lower than you. Do not be disturbed by temporary distress or happiness. Fully control your mind and senses. In this transcendental position, try to execute your duty as king in whatever condition of life you may be posted by my arrangement, for your only duty here is to give protection to the citizens of your kingdom. So here, the Lord is, as Prabhupada is writing in the first line of the purport, here is an example of receiving direct instructions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. So the Lord is given direct instructions after speaking all that philosophy of rising to the spiritual platform and not being attached on the bodily platform, which is the cause of Prithu Maharaj's, you could say, some sort of dissatisfaction at not being able to perform the 100th hour sacrifice. So therefore, he gave that whole philosophical background so to raise Prithu Maharaj from the bodily platform to the spiritual platform, the soul platform, and the realization of the Paramatma. So now he's giving direct instructions. And so he's is saying that so whoever one may be, whether one is equal or superior or lower in any situation, samana uttama madhyama adhama. So whoever one may be, saman, uttama, madhyama, adhama, whoever, see them equally, samaha. So somebody will say, how is that possible? So of course, the dealings may be different, as Rupa Goswami explains in the Nectar of Instruction, 5th verse. But then when one sees everyone on the spiritual platform, then one does not distinguish on the basis of the bodily differences. So then one is actually able to serve everyone, because one sees them as spirit souls in whatever position. The way of rendering the service may be different, but one is able to render service because one sees them as spirit souls. Therefore, one sees them equally. And so then one will not be disturbed by temporary distress or happiness. And then he's saying, try to execute your duty as king in whatever condition of life you may be posted by my arrangement. So the Lord is reminding Prithu Maharaj that actually his post and position is given by me. This post and position is given by me. And therefore, you have to do that as a service to me. These are, of course, very, very important instructions for us as devotees. And especially these instructions which Lord gives Prithu Maharaj are very important for those in leadership positions. And I think so that's your OBA question. So to write about Lord Vishnu's instructions and how they're applicable for leaders. So this is something which are very important instructions. So whatever post and position one is put in, one always sees that as the Lord's arrangement. It is the Lord who has given me the service. And so if one is always in that consciousness, then one always sees that service in connection to the Lord. And so even though some person, some authority, some immediate authority may give us that service, but if we actually are in that consciousness that this service has been given to me by the Lord himself, then one will do that service in a way so as to please the Lord. Okay, so these are some very, very important points for doing our services in that consciousness, Krishna consciousness. The service has been given to me by Krishna. And therefore, he's saying that, yes, I have put you in this, I've given you this service, and your duty is to give protection. Loka Rakshanam. Loka Rakshanam. So this is your service, which I am giving you. Very important purports. I'm just reading a few important statements. Prabhupada is quoting from Bhagavad Gita, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. Every man's duty is to receive orders from Lord Krishna or from his bona fide representative and take these orders as life and soul without personal conspiration. Srila Vishwanath Thakur states that one should not care very much whether he's going to be liberated or not, but he should simply execute the direct order received from the spiritual master. Okay, so that's the commentary of Vishwanath Thakur on the Vyavasayatmika Buddhi verse. He says, samsara may exist, not exist, but one continues executing the instructions of the spiritual master. So as Prabhupada says further down, the word Bhatta Saurad in the previous verse is explained here with. So how one can establish that friendship with the Lord, that is what is being explained here, by following the instructions of the Lord. That's how one actually develops that friendship. And then the Lord helps us by giving us directions, how to act in devotional service, and thus advance on the path back home, back to God. Therefore, one should not accept the spiritual master as an ordinary human being. The Lord says, Acharya Mam Vijnanyan Navamanyeta Karchit. One should not treat the spiritual master as an ordinary human being, for he is the substitute for the supreme personality of Godhead. And then, if he performs this service of protecting the citizens, then what will be the result? He's explaining in the next verse. Shreya Prajapalanameva Rajnyo Yat Samparaye Sukritats Sashtamam Sham Hartanyatha Ritapunya Prajanam Arakshita Karaharo Gham Ati. To give protection to the general mass of people who are citizens of the state is the prescribed occupation and duty for a king. By acting in that way, the king in his next life shares 1/6 of the result of the pious activities of the citizens. But a king or executive head of state who simply collects taxes from the citizens, but does not give them proper protection as human beings, has the results of his own pious activities taken away by the citizens, and in exchange for his not giving protection, he becomes liable to punishment for the impious activities of his subjects. Okay, so one has been given the service, one has been given the responsibility. If he performs the responsibility well, then he gets benefit. He even gets the 1/6 of the share results of the pious activities. But if he does not perform the responsibility well, then he has to even share the impious activities of the citizens. And his own pious activities are taken away by the citizens. Okay, so therefore, it is nice to have a responsible service, but at the same time, along with responsibility, one should always know that one has to do the duty properly. Otherwise, if one does not do the duty properly, then one will have to face the reactions. These are some points which will come again in the next chapter. And so we'll get into details on some of these points in the next chapter. And then Prabhupada is explaining how everyone is supposed to perform their duty, whether it is the king, the government, parents, spiritual masters, everyone. So in the last paragraph of the purport, Prabhupada is writing, the same principle can be applied to parents and spiritual masters as well. If parents simply give birth to children like cats and dogs, but cannot save their children from imminent death, they become responsible for the activities of the animalistic children. Lately, such children are turning into hippies. Similarly, if a spiritual master cannot direct his disciples to become free of sinful activities, he becomes responsible for their sinful acts. These subtle laws of nature are unknown to the present leaders of society. Since the leaders of society have a poor fund of knowledge and the citizens in general are rogues and thieves, there cannot be an auspicious situation for human society. Okay, so very important that ultimately everyone does their duties. 15. Lord Vishnu continued, my dear King Prithu, if you continue to protect the citizens according to the instructions of the learned Brahmana authorities. Somebody can read this translation, please. Just give me 1 second.
Lord Vishnu continued, my dear King Prithu, if you continue to protect the citizens according to the instructions of the learned Brahmana authorities, as they are received by the disciplic succession, by hearing from master to disciple, and if you follow the religious principles laid down by them, without attachment to ideas manufactured by mental concoction, then every one of your citizens will be happy and will love you. And very soon you will be able to see such already liberated personalities as the four Kumaras, Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandan, and Sanat Kumar.
Yes, so these are some very important points. So, right, so I gave a reference for the 13th verse, right, and it's also applicable for this verse. Yes, the importance of the disciplic succession and following the acharyas. So here, a very important point that he's mentioning over here, and that is evam dvija agriya anumata anuvritta dharma. So following the principles given by or approved by the disciplic succession. So this is a very important purport in this connection, 10 to 31, the prayers of the Devatas. So you can read the purport to that verse. It's a very important purport where Srila Prabhupada is explaining the importance of following the process given by the acharyas. So here also he's making the point that if you continue to protect the citizens according to the instructions of the learned Brahmana authorities, as they're received by the disciplic succession by hearing from master disciple, okay, then every one of your citizens will be happy and will love you. So again, these are very important instructions for leaders. Every leader wants all the dependents to be happy with them, isn't it? So this is the way. So because it's like watering the root of the tree. So if one waters the root of the tree, then yes, all parts of the tree will be happy. Similarly, if the Lord is pleased, when one follows the instructions of the acharyas, when one follows the instructions of the disciplic succession, if the Lord is pleased, then all one's dependents also can be pleased. Otherwise, so it's not something which is a mechanical process. It's not just a mechanical process. So one has to understand it all works on the spiritual platform. So the more one acts on the spiritual platform of following the acharyas and the instructions of the disciplic succession, the Lord is pleased. The Lord is situated as Paramatma within everyone's heart, and it is the Lord which makes the dependents actually happy and satisfied with the leader. So it's not simply some manipulation or some tricks or something like that by which one can please people. No. So it all works on the spiritual platform, and therefore this is a very important point to note. And so therefore, in the second paragraph of the purport, Prabhupada is saying that one simply has to hear from the perfect source, this is called parampara, and follow the principles for practical application in life. Thus, one can attain the highest perfection of life, liberation, and go back to God. In other words, the change required is a change in consciousness, not in the body. That is what is required. Change in consciousness. The more one is Krishna conscious, the more one can activated by your. You may therefore ask from me any benediction you like. One who does not possess elevated qualities and behavior cannot possibly achieve my favor simply by performance of sacrifices, severe austerities, or mystic yoga. But I always remain equipoised in the heart of one who is also equipoised in all circumstances. So here the Lord is finally mentioning, he's finally requesting the king to ask for benediction. He's saying he's very pleased, but by what is he pleased? So he's saying, I'm not pleased by the sacrifices, the 99 sacrifices that the king performed or the austerities or anything else. But he's saying that he's pleased because of guna shila, by the qualities and the excellent behavior and the character. That is what is going to please the Lord. So can somebody say, give some other references where the Lord says he's pleased by character, behavior, qualities? Yes, Bhakti Prabhu.
In case of Prachetas, the Lord was pleased by their cooperation. So that quality, spirit of cooperation, this quality of cooperation.
Okay, fine, good. Okay, the example of the Prachetas is there. Anywhere else? Any other reference? Right in the Bhagavad Gita.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. In Bhagavad Gita 12th chapter, so many shlokas are describing Krishna is pleased with the good qualities.
Yes, that's right. So the last section of the 12th chapter from 13 to 20 is all a list of various qualities, which the Lord says, you have these qualities, then you become dear to me. So that is how one can become dear, by trying to develop all the qualities. And then, of course, we have other references like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu telling the Sanodia Brahman, Dharma Stapana Hetu Sadhura Vyavahar. So, and then here on the screen, I put this reference from the 3rd canto. The Lord Vishnu is telling in the pastime of Jay and Vijay. So Lord Vishnu is speaking this. So somebody can read from the screen. 3.16.5.
Purport or translation. A wrong act committed by a servant leads people in general to blame his master, just as a spot of a white leprosy on any part of the body pollutes all of the skin. A Vaishnava, therefore, should be fully qualified. As stated in Bhagavatam, anyone who has become a Vaishnava has developed all the good qualities of the demigods. There are 26 qualifications mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. A devotee should always see that his Vaishnava qualities increase with the advancement of his Krishna consciousness. A devotee should be blameless, and because any offense by the devotee is a scar on the supreme personality of Godhead. The devotee's duty is to be always conscious in his dealings with others, especially with another devotee of the Lord.
Yes, so yes, Prabhupada is giving some very important instructions for devotees, and saying a devotee should always see that his Vaishnava qualities increase with the advancement of his Krishna consciousness, and that is natural. If one is actually advancing, that is a test. Another important reference from the Bhagavad Gita is 13th chapter, verses 8 to 12, where Krishna is describing Gyan, and there also gives a list of qualities. And in that purport, Prabhupada actually writes that this is the test. If one wants to test whether one is actually advancing in Krishna consciousness, this is the test to see whether one's Vaishnava qualities are increasing. Because as one is getting purified of the material contamination, the qualities are already there in the soul, being part and parcel of the Lord. But now all the qualities are covered over. But as if one is actually advancing and getting purified, then the material contamination goes and the natural qualities of the soul become manifest. And so therefore, if one is actually advancing, then the Vaishnava qualities should increase. And that's what Prabhupada is saying. A devotee should always see that his Vaishnava qualities increase. That is actually the test of advancement. That is the test of purification. So not anything material, nothing material. So one may have so many achievements in terms of, even in devotional service, one may have many achievements, which is good and which is definitely essential. But the real achievement which a devotee should always be looking for, which will please the Lord, is whether the Vaishnava qualities are increasing. And then that pleases the Lord, and then because then the devotee is always conscious in his dealings because of the Vaishnava qualities. And then otherwise, it becomes a scar on the Supreme Lord. So a devotee misbehaves, then people will say, oh, you're a devotee, how you're behaving like this? You're a member of ISKCON, we don't expect this from you. The blame goes on the Supreme Lord, the blame goes on Srila Prabhupada as the founder Acharya. Then how are they going to be pleased? So some very important points. And as Prabhupada writes in this purport here, the Lord Vishnu was very pleased with Maharaj Prithu's good character and behavior and offered him a benediction. The Lord openly says that performing great sacrifices or undergoing the austerities of mystic yoga practice cannot satisfy him. He is pleased only by elevated character and behavior. But these cannot develop unless one becomes a pure devotee of the Lord. Anyone who has developed unalloyed, unflinching devotional service with the Lord develops his original good qualities as spirit soul. The spirit soul is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of God, is all good qualities of the Lord. When the spirit soul is contaminated by the material modes of nature, one is considered good or bad with reference to the material qualities. But when one is transcendent to all material qualities, all the good qualities come out. They're already there, they come out. And there's 26 qualities. Okay. So in this way, the Lord has given some very important instructions to Prithu Maharaj, and also gave a philosophical understanding of his dealings with Indra. And in this way, these are some very important points for us to learn. So we will continue the discussions on this chapter in our next class. So Yuval Shampru can announce when is our next class.
Yuval Shampru has just gone out.
Okay, fine. So somebody knows when is the next class?
As per the mail, next class is day after tomorrow.
Okay, fine. So the next class is on Wednesday. So we will continue our discussions on Wednesday. Thank you all very much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.